Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Hi, I'm John Mallos, and welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Wednesday morning. Hey, today we're talking turkey because tomorrow is Turkey Day. It's Thanksgiving. We'll talk all about what you have to be thankful for and what you are not thankful for on this 2013 version of Thanksgiving. 436 MeTV option 11. We're back with your phone calls and our guest in just a moment.
I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
And welcome back to the showroom floor here at Ventura TV on this Wednesday morning. Glad to have you along, of course, the day before Thanksgiving, and we're going to be talking turkey all day long here. We're going to take your phone calls and talk about what you are thankful for this year and what you are not thankful for. What I mean by that is maybe you're stuck in some airport someplace, or maybe stuck in a cab in New York City, or maybe you're stuck in Fresno in a cab, or maybe you've got that dreaded relative that comes over each and every year and you do not look forward to spending time with that person in front of the TV set watching football all day long. We'll also talk about the history of Thanksgiving, started back in the early 1600s at Plymouth Rock, of course, with the Pilgrims and the Puritans. We'll have an expert in the house talking about that. And we'll talk about a few other things. I'm going to talk about this DVD that has been out for a little while. It's called Our Greek Heritage. There it is right there. I'm going to hold it up. We'll take a look at some interesting excerpts from this DVD that talk about the Greek heritage, and an expert is in the house, the man who actually produced that DVD, and where you might be able to purchase that. But when we get back to Thanksgiving now, what we have to be thankful for, what we dread looking forward to on that Turkey Day, but also there are some traditions like eating turkey, eating the stuffing, having the cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, whatever it might be. And oh, don't forget that family touch football game out in the front yard, and watching television, not only football, but our friend, our good friend, and we almost consider him like a relative, Charlie Brown.
Come on, Charlie Brown. I'll hold the ball and you kick it.
Hold it? Ha! You'll pull it away and I'll land flat on my back and kill myself.
But Charlie Brown, it's Thanksgiving.
What's that got to do with anything?
Well, one of the greatest traditions we have is the Thanksgiving Day football game. And the biggest, most important tradition of all is the kicking off of the football.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Come on, Charlie Brown. It's a big honor for you.
Well, if it's that important, a person should never turn down a big honor. Maybe I should do it. Besides, she wouldn't try to trick me on a traditional holiday. This time I'm gonna kick that football clear to the moon!
Isn't it peculiar, Charlie Brown, how some traditions just slowly fade away?
Charlie Brown, the tradition of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and also, obviously, Halloween. Live in our studio right now is our guy, our expert on everything is Tony Cocolas. He is a history professor at Merced College. He is a historian. He is going to talk a little bit about Charlie Brown and Thanksgiving, the history of Thanksgiving, and also the DVD that he wrote. He also produced this. It's called Our Greek Heritage. So call in at 436 MeTV option 11. Turn down the sound on your television set and do not wade through the message. So if you have a question or a comment or maybe a complaint about Thanksgiving and what you're not thankful for, then call in and give your opinion. Voice your opinion right here on Connect with Me. We're back with our program in just a moment.
Now, why don't you tell us the whole story right from the beginning? All right, from the beginning. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Police officers.
You any idea who the other man was?
My partner's Bill Gannon.
Program?
We got just one big question.
Yeah.
When?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
I'd like to bet my bottom dollar that the #1 topic of conversation around the country at the Thanksgiving Day table this year will be Obamacare. That's a great way to get into an argument with one of your relatives or all of your relatives. Start talking politics or maybe even religion. I mean, I've seen these things happen over and over again at the holiday table, either Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever the case may be. It always happens, doesn't it, Tony?
It sure does, John.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you for inviting me.
Good. Tony Cocolas is our guest today. He is a historian and a professor at, of course, at Merced College. So Thanksgiving. Take us back to the beginning. How did all this start?
Well, the thing is, the idea of having a feast to express thankfulness actually comes from biblical times. There
Really?
was, yes, on more than one occasion from
Before Christ?
Before Christ and after Christ, there was a tradition of having people getting together to provide thanks for the gifts that God had endowed to them. Yeah, that was so.
So it's not a Christian thing. It dates back thousands of years.
Correct.
Right, but they didn't call it Thanksgiving back then.
No, it becomes institutionalized later. And then, ironically enough, it wasn't until the 19th century that it moved toward becoming a national holiday.
Right.
Because otherwise it was just one of the situations and a tradition, and how much of the tradition is historically accurate that.
And so it started moving a little bit around the world then, huh? This Thanksgiving Day, giving thanks for what we have, our health, our friends, our family.
It's about as basic as you can get. That you give thanks to a superior being for the benefits and the gifts you've been given.
Right. And so where did it moved to England too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how big was it there?
Quite frankly, I don't remember.
Okay. All right. But then not a problem. But it moved here to the United States.
And then
1621 is when the
1621 is when the tradition or the myth came up that the Pilgrims, to show their appreciation for the benefit and the assistance they had been given by the Indians, had a feast in which both the Indians and the Pilgrims shared a meal together to express their gratitude for the interaction and the assistance that the Indians had given the Pilgrims to allow them to survive a very
Pilgrims and the Puritans, right? Am I right about that?
Not the Puritans yet. The
Okay.
Pilgrims were an extreme form of the Puritans. The Puritans actually were a breakoff from the Church of England. They felt that the Church of England had broken off from the Church of Rome, but the liturgy is basically the same. So the Puritans wanted to purify. That's where you get the word Puritan.
Right.
Wanted to purify the Church of England. And the Pilgrims were people that didn't think the Puritans had gone far enough. And initially, they moved to the Netherlands because they didn't feel that they could go ahead and practice their purist approach, and then that's when the government of England decided this is a way in which we could get these people leaving the Netherlands, establishing their own religion, and providing a benefit to the mother country at the same time.
Yeah, it started in 1621. Plymouth Rock, if you don't know what that is, just outside of Boston there, Massachusetts. I've actually been there and seen Plymouth Rock. Now, if you were to ask me, is this Plymouth Rock the actual rock where they had the first Thanksgiving? How can we verify that? I have no idea. But that's the myth, that's the legend right there,
Correct.
Plymouth Rock, if you've ever been there. And you can't touch it. A lot of people try to, they want to chip away at it and take a souvenir. it's like anything else, right? You go to the Parthenon in Greece, they do the same thing.
That's why they had to put restrictions, because everyone was taking away a little relic, and pretty soon
pretty soon you got no Plymouth Rock.
Right.
I saw it. They had it when I was there, at least. I don't know what it's like now, but when I was there, they had it roped off. You can go up to a certain point, and that's it. But you can clearly see it. Take a picture right there. So the significance, and why did this tradition all of a sudden catch fire?
Well, actually, it evolved. Evolved in the 19th century.
Evolved. But why did it catch fire across the land?
Oh, basically because people wanted. I suspect it was a situation. There was a need to provide an expression of gratitude and family togetherness. So consequently. Part of it was the myth, and part of it was the fact that having a holiday in which the whole family gets together and interacts during a meal is something that is psychologically desirable. I mean, emotionally desirable.
Right, and so it carried on through the years. We're talking with Tony Cocolas. He is a history professor at Merced College and a historian, and talking about, of course, Thanksgiving. If you have any comments or thoughts about Thanksgiving on your end, 436 MeTV option 11. Don't wait through the message and turn down the sound. And call in and tell us what you're thankful for, or maybe what you're not thankful for. What are some of the biggest memories that you have for Thanksgiving, Tony?
Oh my God, it was one of the happiest days of the year, especially when my parents were both alive. We had my parents, we had other relatives, we had our closest friends, and depending on the situation, we could have a sit-down dinner in which there were about 40 people that participated.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though,
Long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your DVD and what this is all about. I do want to hold it up and show it first before we play a clip. It's called Our Greek Heritage, and Tony wrote it. He produced it. This is very dear to his heart. There's the DVD right there. They made, I don't know how many hundreds of copies. You can purchase this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's play a little promotional clip from the DVD, and then we'll talk about that on the other side of it. Great shot of the Parthenon there. It's called Our Greek Heritage, a DVD produced and written by Tony Cocolas, and we're going to talk about the significance of this and why he produced and wrote it, and why is it important? Why should people get it and watch it? So what does it have to do with our lives today? We'll talk about that on the other side of the break here on Connect with Me, 436 MeTV option 11. Call in, ask about the DVD, or make your comments about Thanksgiving. We're talking turkey. You're going to be eating turkey tomorrow, or doing whatever you're doing, maybe exercising, watching a little bit of football, and sitting next to that dreaded relative that you dread each and every year. Back with our show here on Connect with Me in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Trying to be a little bit lighthearted here on the day before Thanksgiving and not talk too much in terms of serious topics, and try to keep it lighthearted and, talk about what you might be doing tomorrow. Tony, have you ever had a Thanksgiving dinner, and I say this jokingly and in a fun way, where you're having to sit next to that relative that you see once a year, and you really don't want to sit next to this person?
I'm actually very grateful to say that I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, so you like all your relatives?
Yes.
All right.
The ones we get together. Obviously, the ones that we don't get together with are.
You don't see them.
We don't see them. Yeah.
You don't want to see them. They're not invited.
They're not invited. That's the correct assumption. Yeah.
No, I'm making light of that because I've actually had that happen a couple of times. But anyway, Our Greek Heritage is the DVD. It's right here. Okay, so what is this? What is this about?
Well,
Is it self-explanatory? The title?
It really is self-explanatory because what frequently is not known is, without sounding like Mr. Portocalis in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, show me word, any word. I show you Greek in origin. Now, I don't want to go to that extent, but if you really examine the facts, the core foundation of Western civilization started in ancient Greece.
Give me an example.
Okay, the whole concept of being a citizen as opposed to being a subject. The whole concept of citizenship began in ancient Greece. Before ancient Greece, you didn't have the term citizen. In ancient Greece, you have the word politis, which means associated with a city-state, in which you are a part of the society. You're not a member of the ruling class. You're not a member of the lower class. You are an integral part of the system, and you have rights because you are a citizen. The whole concept of citizen and citizen rights.
So that started in ancient Greece.
Absolutely. Now, let's just go beyond that.
How can we verify that? How do we know that's true?
The verification, number one, you have Greek documents, but people have written about them. In the meanwhile, the Roman documents are replete. The Roman documents are replete, and then we have records. Ironically enough, the Greeks were the first people that came up with the whole concept of a constitution. And in ancient Greece, they call it a politia, in which the rights and responsibilities of citizens were defined, and the responsibilities and the limitations of government were also defined. Now, interestingly enough, most of those constitutions were in written form, many of which we have access to today.
In ancient Greece, was the government all intrusive, or were they hands-off?
The answer is that it depended on the city-state. Keep in mind, ancient Greece consisted of hundreds of city-states, and each city-state was different. But as a rule of thumb, you had rights as a free citizen.
But back then, was less government better? Because a lot of people talk about less government is better. Some people say, no, we need government to control our lives, to control this, that, and everything.
Well, this may come as a shock to you, but the ancient Greeks, which established the first constitutional form of government, most of them did not have taxes. Okay. Most of the Greeks did not have taxes.
How did the government survive without taxes then?
The way the government, you had ways in which you raised revenue, number one. But number two, a number of the officials
How did you raise revenue without taxes?
Oh, very, very simply through trade, commerce, and other things.
So you would have a tax on that?
Indirectly. Well,
but you see, that is a tax. Government can't. Okay, would you agree that government can't survive without tax?
The underlying assumption, John, is that government officials are paid. In ancient Greece, many of the government officials were not paid. This is a part of their function, the duty as a civic responsibility, that it's your right and your responsibility to serve. That, like for instance...
Would you agree, for the sake of argument, government needs taxes to survive?
Yes.
Okay. In ancient Greece, that actually happened directly or indirectly?
It happened indirectly. In Athens, this is the place where you had the most taxes, in which because of the fact that at the end of the Persian Wars, they expanded the citizenship.
Yeah.
They ended up taxing the colonies, not the actual citizens.
I want to take a call here. Good morning. You're on with Tony Cocolas. Your question, please.
Tony, I got something to say. You know, I'm not being thankful for it because the buses are not running on that day because of those cuts.
Oh, the budget cuts.
Yeah.
And you're upset about that because you ride the bus.
That's right.
So no buses are running tomorrow. You know that for a fact?
That has been for the last 3 years.
Huh. I did not know that because obviously I don't ride the bus. And I have nothing against. I think riding the bus is great if you can do it.
That's something obviously I'm ignorant about. However, I can tell you right now, the government spending, both on national and state level, has gotten out of control. And let me just tell you what happens when you spend money for things that you never spent before. Right. I started out college by going to Modesto Junior College. You know what my tuition was when I attended Modesto Junior College?
No, I have no idea.
Zero. All I had to do was buy a student body card because of the fact that all these benefits are provided elsewhere didn't exist.
Right now, really isn't practical in today's world.
Well, actually, it was very practical then.
But not in this day and age. It'd be pretty hard to pull that off in this day and age.
Well,
wouldn't you say?
It depends. It depends on the situation, and it depends on we're getting. I'm getting away from the topic that I wanted to concentrate on. That's the DVD. However,
okay.
however, it's a situation where there's no cliche that was. There's no statement that was made by Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
A government that's big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take away everything you have.
Well, that's true. That's true, too. Okay, the DVD, we're going to come back to that, talk about that. It's called Our Greek Heritage. We'll play a couple of clips coming back after the break. We're talking with Tony Cocolas. You're watching us on Connect With Me. And by the way, I did not know the bus service was not working tomorrow. I did not know that. That is not a good thing and something our caller is not thankful for tomorrow. Anyway, back with our program here on Connect With Me in the city of Fresno in just a moment.
1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12.
This is Adam 12. It stars Martin Milner as Officer Pete Malloy, Kent McCord as Officer Jim Reed.
1 Adam 12, roger.
This black and white patrol car has an overhead valve V8 engine. It develops 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPMs. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour. The automobile has 2 shotgun racks, one attached to the bottom portion of the front seat, one in the vehicle trunk.
You want me to drive?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
All right, what don't you have to be thankful for, or what you have to be thankful for? Call in 436-MeTV option 11. Don't wait through the message and turn down the sound on your TV set. The DVD here, Tony Cocolas, written and produced. It's called Our Greek Heritage. I do want to play a quick clip, and then we'll come back and talk about the DVD in just a moment.
Alone of all the civilizations that existed in antiquity, the Greeks invented notions such as citizenship, the idea that power belongs to citizens rather than to important people. And it invented the idea of a middle class, hoi mesoi, not peasants, not aristocrats, but a middle class, as we would call it. This documentary, we are going to explore more fully some of these institutions and these unique ideas that contribute to the uniqueness of Western civilization.
3,000 to 5,000 years ago, our human ancestors started evolving from a hunter and gathering society into agricultural settlements along river valleys. The earliest settlements were along the Tigris, Euphrates, the Nile, the Indus, and Yellow in China. Though all the early civilizations were different, there were some characteristics that all possessed. Society consisted of 2 classes. Those on the top were the monarchs, the nobles, and the clergy. Those on the bottom were the serfs, slaves, sharecroppers, and limited free farmers. The monarch was usually associated with divinity or considered a god himself. Okay, of course, that's the DVD, Our Greek Heritage, and Bruce Thornton, he is a professor where?
Oh, the man has multi-credentials. He is a professor of the classics at California State University, Fresno, and he also a research fellow at Stanford University with the Hoover Institution. Now,
he's over there with our guy Victor Davis Hanson.
He's there with Victor Davis Hanson and some other very distinguished scholars.
Yeah, but Bruce in that DVD was talking about government in ancient Greece, talking about power to the people.
No,
the power of the people.
Power to the citizens, not the people per se. No, it's not. No, it's not.
What's the difference?
If you were a member of the class of people that were productive,
okay,
you're talking about the farmers. You're talking about later the merchants. We're talking about the artisans. It did not apply because there still was some slavery and there still were some serfs. However, an entire group of people, the mesoi, oi mesoi, or the mesos, the middle class, were the foundation of society. So consequently, you're talking about...
So what kind of power did they have, Tony?
They had the total power because...
Of what?
They decided...
What would they have control over?
They had control over their destiny. They came up with a type of government. Mm-hmm. They came up with a type of government which would be used. Like every one of them, they had between 4 to 8 clans, and the leaders of the clans came through and put together a politia, or a constitution, in which they defined the rights and responsibilities of citizens, okay, and the right and the rights and the limitations of power. They basically said, there is no power on earth above us other than ourselves. In every other society, power was dominated by a very small elite.
Let me ask you, what's the purpose of this DVD? Well, what's your point?
The point is to explain that the core values of Western civilization, whether it's the idea of citizenship, whether it's the idea of consensual constitutional government, whether it's the concept of freedom of expression. Incidentally, in no other society in the world up to that point did you have the word freedom of expression. In ancient Greece, you had two words for freedom of expression, parousia and isogoria. You had the whole concept of value of the individual. You as an individual had rights.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the only society in the world, and you had things that we take for granted right now, separation of church and state, civilian control of the military. I mean, these all started in ancient Greece.
Okay. We do have another clip from the DVD, and I want to talk about where you can buy it. Let's take a look at the DVD, Our Greek Heritage, another clip. Roll it, and we'll comment on the other side. When America's founding fathers met in Philadelphia to write our Constitution, they used ancient Greece as a primary role model and example, since ancient Greece was the originator of constitutional government.
Well, first you have to come up with the idea, the astonishing idea that we spoke of already, the incredibly unique idea that power, collective power a community uses to decide what it does and what it should pursue, is not going to be the private possession of a human being. It's not going to be an extension of who he is, as Pharaoh or the great king of Persia or of a small aristocracy. Power becomes, in a sense, abstract. It resides in laws, institutions, in procedures for deciding who gets to use power when, the limits of power. In ancient Athens, 1 year, that's it. Accountability. What did you do when you were given this power? Power belongs to the citizens collectively, and it's used according to rules.
Between 800 BC to 500 BC, as the Greek polises were evolving through the Greek mainland, the clans of the city-states mutually came up with guidelines and regulations on how the polis should function. The constitution was known as politia. By 500 BC, most of the constitutions of the hundreds of polises were in written form. These guidelines included definitions and limitations of government. So Bruce Thornton there talking about collective power.
Well, it depends on how you define collective power. Basically, the citizens, or the polites, they basically put together a system in which they assured that the ultimate source of power would be they themselves.
Okay, Tony, how does this, somebody watching this show right now is going to say, okay, so what? It's a DVD, it's about our Greek heritage. How does this relate to me? How does this relate to current times? How does this relate to current politics and what's going on in Washington now?
The core values of everything we hold dear started in ancient Greece. It's just that simple. You don't have to go any farther. The whole idea of being a citizen who has rights as an individual, and you can't be trampled on by a majority or by an upper class. You have rights as a citizen. You have those rights defined in writing. That's the whole concept of freedom of expression. And then you have the whole concept of the church can be important, but the church and the state are distinctly separated, because every one of the politia said the source of power was not your association with a divinity, which was every other type of government up to this point, but it was the collective, using your term, but it was the collective power of the polites, or the citizens, to go ahead and decide.
Quickly, how long did it take you to write and produce this?
Oh, all said and done, it took me a few months.
Okay, and how long is the DVD?
The DVD is actually less than half an hour, and the reason is I wanted to make it accessible and easy to understand. So if you have a PhD in history, you can appreciate it. If you've barely gone to high school, you can appreciate it also.
Okay, where can they buy it right now?
Okay, right now.
Quickly, we got like 10 seconds.
P.O. Box 2098, Clovis 93613, And the people you make out the check to is the Hellenic Project. It's a 501c3 and it's tax deductible.
All right. How many of these did you make?
Okay, so far we've made about 1,000. We sold most of them. We hopefully will kind of come up with a marketing approach in which this is only a drop in the bucket because we think it's an important message that needs to be presented.
All right, Tony Cocolas, good to see you. Come back again. Be our guest again here on Connect with Me. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You too, my friend. God bless.
Okay, thank you. Tony Cocolas, a history professor at Merced College and a historian. That's going to do it for us. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. Have a good and healthy day and a happy day on Thanksgiving. See you back here live on Monday.